Hi, I want to make a series of videos regarding WSIB, WCB, whatever it's called. It's been called Workmen's Compensation Board, it's now WSIB, Workplace Safety and Insurance Board. Whatever you want to call it, it's not about the worker. Unless it's an easy cut your finger off or stub your toe and then you're back to work and you're a good soldier. If you have anything more complicated than that, you're basically screwed. Just to state for the record, I am now 33 years old and I'm going to turn 34 in July. Right now it's February. I'm not sure if my case will be resolved before my next birthday. I'm waiting for a tribunal again, but this is the big one. I think this is the one that ends it, and I don't believe I'll win. I have a lot of paperwork going back over a number of years, not just since my appeal, which happened in 2007 when I was cut from the labor market reentry program, which is a joke and a completely stupid program and an insult. You're basically sold to a disability company for a price, and they're supposedly to make, well, anyone who's had experience knows about all this. You can research it if you want. I don't want to get into too many details, or else I'll tell my whole story right now. But let me just say that my initial injury was a skin injury. I had allergic contact dermatitis to the materials that we work with, which it was recently disputed by someone who has no idea what they're talking about after a hearing recently, and that really upset me because I have so much proof, including material safety data sheets. Many people it can give cancer and such too, this chemical, but it can also give skin diseases, and I got the skin disease. The fact that WSIB failed to come into the factory and meet me or see me when my hands were at their worst and I was dealing with it is not my fault. When did that happen? Oh, I believe I was 19 or 20. I was 20 by that time. The injury happened a few years earlier. It was always documented, first aid reports, numerous, until they were sick of it. I had knuckle bandages in my locker to take care of myself. This is after the time period where I was off work for 9 months for my hands to heal, where the factory put me out, and then WSIB paid me and I was just sent back to work. I lived in a rural area and I wasn't given any further instruction except a intimidating letter by my employer saying that I was to wear sleeves and gloves and that if I was to miss any time it was on me, and that was it. And I was young. I know I'm still young, but I'm 34 soon, and this has happened since I lost my 20s, and I'm almost halfway through my 30s. I was eventually pulled out of the factory in my mid-20s, but by then I had developed depression, anxiety, multiple suicide attempts, agoraphobia, post-traumatic. I was living in a small town and I didn't have options or money, and it was sort of like the therapy I was provided was more like trying to get me back to work. So we focused on childhood issues, and that's been used against me. Anything that's happened in your life that is used against you in a case, and if you're like me and you were naive and you were honest and you thought that honesty and openness and belief in a system, or belief that justice occurs and that right is right and wrong is wrong, that does not happen with this WSIB or WCB. It does get to a point where you realize that no one's gonna save you, no one was on your side. So anyway, I have been in appeal since I was cut off of the labor market reentry program, which is just a joke. Worst joke ever to people. You know, you go through the factory or workplace injury and you deal with the wsib, and then you deal with being contracted, sold out to an outsider company which does not have your interests in mind, and it's all a humiliating process. And then when you aren't actually ready for it and you're cut for non-compliance because you can't do it yet mentally or physically, it's demeaning and horrible. And the thing that is bad is any attempts you make to do better in your life, whether it to be to keep going, to move forward, to try working another job, to try having another relationship, because many of us, unless you're lucky and you have such a great partner, the strain of it, you usually lose it all. You lose, people don't understand, or they can't handle what you're going through, or your reactions to it. So you basically lose a lot. And whenever, if you've got some will in you and you keep trying, don't worry, that'll be used against you too. The heating is kicking on. Basically, it's like you can't win. But yet, what other choice do you have? I mean, through my 20s, I did the whole trying to kill myself thing. Since I didn't go through with it completely, well, as Dorothy Parker said, you may as well live. So here I am in my 30s, and I don't want to lose another decade to this. So when tribunal happens and I lose unjustly, well, I hope that I gather the strength to use the paperwork that they have, that has accumulated, reports and information and all of it, and I hope I compile it and I can get it out there as a resource to people, how to fight them and lose. But just my experience, because I see that a lot of people are sharing their experiences, and I think it's helpful. If I had known that I wasn't alone in going through this, maybe it would have made the 20s a lot easier, and maybe things wouldn't have been so hard. I've had to do things I never thought I would have to do because of my situation. And I have become someone that isn't entirely me. I'm surprised that I have as much of myself, of me left, considering. And I sound over dramatic to somebody who's like, what are you, you know, people who don't know this don't know. But if you've been through this, you know that if you're still able to love somebody, or if you're still able to even trust somebody for a minute, or if you're still able to read a book now and then, or write, or whatever it is that your hobby or interest was, if you're able to do that even now and then, it means that part of you's still there. And that's like incredible when you've had every bit of you torn apart. Like I said, either in a pre-recorded or in this same message, you don't win when you are trying. They use that against you. Oh, well, then there's nothing wrong with you if you're able to do this or do that, if you're able to go outside when you say you're agoraphobic and look at these pictures you were outside. They don't realize that it took a friend being out with you, or the panic attacks you had prior to, or that all those pictures are from one day out of months and months of staying in, or how much they use that against you. Any attempts to try, they use against you, and no attempts to try are used against you. because then they'll find some other reason that it's not their fault. And meanwhile, what they did to me was they left a young girl in a place that they knew was toxic for me and my coworkers, and they left me there to rot. And since I couldn't leave there, and I didn't leave there until they finally took me out when I started being more outspoken again about it, it seemed timely. That was it. Now, years later, I'm fighting this appeal since 2007. I'm near the end of it. I finally accepted that I'm not going to win, even though I should. I have the intentions to publish all the paperwork. I'll black out names, perhaps, most of them, so I don't get sued, but it's all going in there. And I just want to move on with my life. I want my life back. And the sad thing is, I've seen so much anger, and I've felt the same, especially lately. And you know that you're never going to get your life back. That all you can do is find a way to keep moving forward and to make a different life. But it's very frustrating when you felt like you did all the right things and you were doing what you were supposed to, and you couldn't believe that it could be this way. You couldn't believe it. And then it just is. And I admire those who are fighting. I worry a little bit about the anger that I've seen, because I'm not exactly seeing productive results from the people's anger, but I relate so much to it, and I can't see how people can't express it. I think it's good they've expressed it, but I worry. I don't know what the answer is in this situation. I don't know what we can do or I can do. I know that that these people I've never met that are going through this stuff can understand me better than lovers I've had, as in partners who never understood who I thought did, or family, or anyone. Nobody knows it unless I've been through it. You know, I'm often told at each hearing how young I am. I've been hearing that since my 20s. And I know I'm still young, because I lecture older people when they say they're not young. I'm like, you're still young. But you feel really old inside. You feel really worn out and tired when you go through this. And each hearing, when they tear you apart, or each assessment where they do it, you're put back through everything you ever went through with them. Not just your initial injury, but your secondary injury that they don't want to recognize, the psychological effects of it. And then it's just everything. They do it. It's like continuous. It's like they continually, I want to use that word. You know what I'm thinking, don't you? Injured worker. And they do it over and over again. And they're allowed. And society turns an eye on it. Because number one, if they haven't been injured, they don't understand. They just think, work and get over it, or work and get help, or move on. They don't see it. They don't see what happens. They don't feel it. And those of us that do, it's like we're survivors of a whole different kind, you know? And I don't know. If you were like me, you experienced ostracization in your workplace before you were done. You know, fellow workers who hadn't been injured yet or hadn't experienced it or couldn't relate and saw your mental breakdown, your depression develop as you continue to work in a place that was toxic to you. You felt that isolation. And then later you felt it in the people who gradually fell off the map as you were continually told, don't worry, we're gonna win this, you're gonna get through this, it's gonna be over soon. And the years keep rolling by, and it's not over. And then when you're like me and you're close for it to being over, it's even scarier. Because there's not a lot of people left around. It's just you and a whole lot of paperwork that adds up to nothing. And you gotta decide, well, is it true that I'm really strong? Is it true that they're gonna really beat me? Is it true that I lost those decades for nothing? Or what? And I guess I really don't have an answer to any of this yet, because I'm waiting. It's all about waiting. The waiting, that's another point. You know I mean this. It's the waiting that kills you. It's the waiting that gets to you and breaks you down. The waiting on decisions. The waiting for paperwork. The waiting for them to decide. The waiting for what can you do next? Waiting, trying to survive. Yeah. This was supposed to be short, and I don't think it'll upload, but I'll give it a try. I might try another video diary on this topic soon. I want to connect to other people who can relate, because I felt alone through this a long time. And I'm really scared about it soon being over. And I'm not sure I'm as strong as some people say I am, or think that I've been. I'm scared of the anger that's come up. And I'm scared of what do I do for the rest of my life. I have my interests and my hobbies, but I don't always have the concentration and follow through. And I stopped believing in anything or anybody saving me. And maybe that even includes myself. If you're out there, can you please reach out to me? I'm at Goldmorn on Twitter, and you can leave a comment here on YouTube. And if you're an injured worker, please link to your story, your video. I want to know. I want to know you're out there, and that maybe you understood what I was talking about, because people in my real life haven't really understood. I don't think anybody understands it unless they've been through it. And in future videos I can show you paperwork, I can show you things. I can show you stuff, and I can tell you more about what I actually went through. But I better cut it off right here, because I've gone on too long. I have a problem with that. Sorry about the bad angles. I'll try to use I'll use a camera next time and not my phone. Take care of yourselves out there. And despite how I've been feeling, you're not alone.